Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
So we're going to flip it around today, and we're going to talk about something that is, go with me on this because it's going to change your life. Something that is so boring.
Yeah.
Just sit tight. What am I talking about? Your comfort zone. Yes, when you sit in your comfort zone, you're living just a boring life. And why would you want to do that? And many of us, if not all of us, kind of ride in the comfort zone. We're afraid of change, and it's a safe place to be, but it's a boring place to be. Let's get you out of there. Let's look at all of this right now. She is a life coach. She's a motivational speaker, mentor, published author, and more. Iveta Kuzela joins us on the program today. Welcome back. How are you?
Thank you. Hi, I'm happy to be back. I'm doing wonderful. How are you, Steve?
Very well. And I'm happy to say in my journey of even the past couple of years, I got out of my comfort zone. And it was an eye opener. You don't realize how mundane life can be or why you're not feeling fulfilled until you do something different or something out of the norm, which is getting out of your comfort zone, right?
Absolutely. Yes. And you said it right. There's several different things that comes to being comfortable in our comfort zone. Not only that it brings like a security blanket for us, it makes us, feel safe and in the perimeter of knowing what's going to happen, knowing the people, knowing the, environment, knowing ourselves in that comfort zone. And that's all great. And we are looking for it because there are two drives that makes us to kind of be in that comfort zone. And that's the drive of feeling safe and feeling in control. So those two things that we are aiming for wherever we are. We want to feel safe and we want to feel in control of the environment, ourselves in the environment, and even people within the environment. And so that's kind of our drive to set up the comfort zone and to start operating within. But what happens when we stay in that comfort zone for too long? You already said that one thing. We get bored. We get really, really bored. And then the phrase is like, same old, every day is the same. Nothing really changes. That's kind of like the indicator that you are in the comfort zone for way too long. Yeah, right? And the other thing that happens when we are in the comfort zone is that we get so comfortable that we might feel we feel like, we're taking things for granted. It's like, yeah, we have it. We forgot how hard we worked to get to where we are. We forgot how much effort and drive we had to put into it to get to that point. And then we take it for granted because we're just too comfortable there. Everything is fine, right? The security is there, the control is there, and then we don't need anything else.
I'm glad you said that because we do take it for granted. And I it's a cliche, but stuck in a rut. You're just doing the same thing. Yep. Rut being, you stepped into something and now you don't get out of it. You're just kind of staying in the same spot.
In the perimeter. Yep.
And you forget to appreciate things because it feels like, well, that's the way it's supposed to be. Well, that's the way it's supposed to be. I should have that house. I should have this. I should have that. When no, you had to work hard to get that, but you forget about it and then you take it for granted, like you said. I truly believe what you just said is on point when you ask somebody, "Hey, how's it going?" Yeah, same old, same old. Yeah,
right. And then they don't. In a personal relationship, you kind of stop dreaming. You stop hoping for something better. You stop, exploring. You stop expanding how far you can go. You just kind of create the ceiling above you, and then you say, "Okay, that's it. That's how far I go." And then you become unfulfilled. Then you start to complain about things. Then you start to feel like, oh, nothing is really working for me. I just am stuck. The word stuck gets very, common when somebody stays in a comfort zone for too long. Now, for the leaders, I want to talk about that a little bit because when you are, starting to climb the corporate ladder, you're driven, you're motivated, you know where you want to go, and you're just going after it, right? You have the drive and you just keep climbing the ladder higher and higher. And then you get to the certain point, whatever you chose that is good for you. If it's an entry-level management or mid-management, or you going all the way up. And then you get kind of comfortable, right? You reach that point, the hard work, the anticipation, everything is there. You're done. You reach what you wanted. And now you get comfortable, which is fine for a little while. But then there's a change. There's always something changes, right? Change is constant. And then if you don't keep up with the market, if you don't keep up with your competition, if you don't keep up even with the other managers in different departments, you start to kind of get in that resistant mode and the fixed kind of mindset where like, yeah, I already reached this level. I don't need to go further. I don't need to expand. I don't need to grow. I know what I'm doing. And and then the mindset shifts as well. You're not looking for ways to challenge yourself. You're not looking for ways to question maybe the status quo. You're not looking for innovative, creative way to do the upgrades or bring something more to the company so that they can rise above the competition. You kind of stay in that water where you set up the perimeters, where you know where the boundaries are, you know what is expected of you, you know what you expect from, or people know what to expect from you. And that's kind of the end of, development, because at some point, someone will realize, hey, this part is falling behind. Why is it falling behind? And it's hard for leaders to, accept it, because they think that what gets them to where they are will continue with the success, will continue with that, I know what I'm doing and I'm just going to stay where I am, right? It's the little bit of ego in there, the resistance, the fixed mindset. So leaders, they try to help others, right? They lead the team, they try to help grow the company. But when this mindset sets in and the comfort zone becomes just too comfortable, then there is the stagnation. We don't grow. The company doesn't grow, and the competition just goes and takes over.
Iveta, how do you get out of the comfort zone? It's all about change. We fear it, whether we admit it or not. At some point, we all fear change. How do we get the courage to move on? Try something different. Take a chance.
You said the good word, the fear. That's like the first thing, right, that stops many of us to get out of the comfort zone, because the brain is wired to let you know that something doesn't feel safe because it's unfamiliar, right? And the brain goes, watch out, you're not going to be safe in there, so you better retreat and go back. So overcoming the fear is the first kind of a step to get out of the comfort zone. When you do get out of the comfort zone, and I usually say it depends where you are in your like growth, development and stuff. I usually say try small things. Try to do the things that you do on daily basis. Try to do them differently. Try to do them in a different time. Try to put a spin on it, so that you can kind of get the sense of how it feels to get just a little bit out of the comfort zone. And then you can retrieve back. And the next day you try it again. And maybe you could go a little further and then you go back. I also like to use, I'm all about conversations, right? I like to use the words not yet and eventually. So because we all have stories, right? We all say stories about us, about our lives, about our professional life, personal life. And when we say, I can never do this, or I will never be a morning person, or I will never reach the higher position, instead of never, can't, won't, try to plug in eventually or not yet. That way, you're not closing the focus and your conversation and the drive down, but you are actually creating expansion. You are saying, well, I'm not there yet, but eventually I'll get there. Or right? See what I'm saying? That you are not just putting that limit, the wall right there. You're keeping it open.
I have another way to look at it. Instead of saying, example, I'm just not a morning person. What was the term you used?
Eventually and not yet. These two.
Not yet. I'm not a morning person. Not yet. or I can't do mornings, not yet, whatever it might be. I try not to use the word not because I think in my mind it's a negative. So I say I'm just not a morning person for
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. Or yeah, for now. There we go. I like that one too. Yeah.
Now is a it's a positive. It's happening in the moment, so it's kind of putting you in the present. But I can say this about change and getting out of your comfort zone. Sometimes you're forced to get out of your comfort zone.
Yep.
Once you do it, it gets easier and easier and easier and easier. We don't realize that. And I will straight up tell you, I do not like change. Oh, let me change that. I never used to like change.
There we go. Yeah.
I didn't. It would drive me crazy. I always like keep it the way it is. I actually ate the same thing every morning for breakfast. I would have the same thing for lunch every day. And that's fine. But that's how regimented I was, and I'm good with that, or was,
Mhm.
until I was forced to make some changes. And then I started realizing, wow, there's another change. Really? There's another change. I'm getting out of my comfort zone. Wow. And it just got easier and easier.
Yeah.
So it's the beginning's not as easy. Once you continue to do it, then you realize, and I guess maybe part of it is, Iveta, don't we have confidence? Doesn't it build confidence in yourself? Like,
Oh, absolutely. Big time. It just boosts it up because when we get out of the comfort zone, we can learn so much about ourselves. We can learn how we react to certain situation. We can learn about how we respond to the situation, what we say, what we don't say. There's such a beautiful growth when you step out of the comfort zone, and it brings the confidence in, and it boosts the self-esteem because you realize, oh, I am actually stronger than I thought I am.
yeah,
Oh yeah, I am actually smarter than I thought I am. I'm more talented. I am more innovative. I am more like open-minded, right? That you become open-minded to new possibilities, different perspectives, even different communications. There are people that they will never talk about certain things. And just to get out of the comfort zone, start talking about the topic that makes you uncomfortable. In a leadership, when leaders often try to avoid uncomfortable conversations, right? They try to just push it further until there's no other way than actually have the conversation. And at that time when it happens, it usually bubbles up into a huge, bigger deal that it could have been if it was taken care of at the first place. And so, try to create ways that you never done before. Try to be more vulnerable, try to be more open, try to be more receptive to other ideas, other possibilities, new visions. Try to ask those hard questions sometimes and see how you react and learn from it, right? I call this stage trial and a glitch, because you're trying something new and then you realize, oh, maybe there's a little glitch. Maybe I need to adjust a little bit, or do it maybe a different time, or in a different way, or with different people. And then so you have that trial and glitch. So you try it, there's a glitch, you correct it, you learn from it, you don't dwell on it, and you move on and you find a different way.
wow. Didn't think of it that way.
Right?
And it's funny because you think glitch is a bad thing, but it's actually can be a good thing to support you.
Yes, yes. And
How did
I don't like to call it an error, because it's not
Yeah.
really, it's just a glitch, right? It's just something that needs to be moved, adjusted, corrected, learned from, and moved on.
Tell us about the time you got out of your comfort zone. Pick one time. Maybe it was a big situation. Maybe it was not so much. What do you think?
Yes. So for me, getting out of my comfort zone was to move from my own country back to, from my country of Czech Republic to London. That was a huge getting out of the comfort zone. I didn't speak English very well. I didn't know anybody there. So I was really just all alone by myself in an unfamiliar country, and just kind of trying to figure out, my surroundings, trying to figure out me in the surroundings, trying to really see what I'm made of. And I purposely did that to myself. I said, okay, I need to find out what I'm made of. Because at that point, when you are in that comfort zone, when you are surrounded and secure by your family, by your environment that you grow up with, you're not going to learn anything new about yourself because it's going to be the same all at the same time, so there is no really chance for the growth. And I'm like, no, I need to know what I'm made of. And I left, and it was beautiful at some moments, and it was very hard in other moments, but all of that brought the awareness. All of that brought that self-development. I'm like, oh, I act like this when this happens. Or when this happens, I know how to get out of it fast because I was forced to figure that out. Yes. So that was
Give you
like,
a lot of
and
credit.
you don't have to go to another country to do that. You can do it, easily from the comfort of your home. But have the hope, have the dream, have the motivation to really get out of the comfort zone. In the personal relationships, when it feels like, I'll give you an example. Let's say that you start dating, right? And everybody wants to look their best. They want to feel their best. They want to look their best. And they do everything to feel that way and be that way. And then the relationship keeps going. And then maybe 6 months later, suddenly somebody starts to not dress up as they used to. Somebody starts to not doing their hair as they used to. And suddenly start to become all slappy and just like, I'm just going to put a shirt on and a pants and I'll be fine, right? Versus 6 months ago, they would be putting makeup and they will make sure they have, shaved and everything is, nice and organized. But the longer you stay in the comfort zone without realizing, then you become sloppy. And you're like, yeah, who cares? I don't need to be all dressy up and just, look pretty all the time. And you don't have to. But there is a point where you become sloppy and you just don't care anymore. And then there's the point where you're like, yeah, I'm still going to maintain my own kind of a, self. I don't have to put all the makeup. I don't have to put all that, but I'm still going to present myself in a certain way. And lots of people, when they enter the relationship, it's kind of like that. They're like, oh, everything is great. And then 6 months later, suddenly nobody's shaving their, hair, or they're not taking, whatever it is. The appearance could, go down to drain. So that's just one example in the personal relationship where I can see very easily just kind of slide in.
I give you a lot of credit for leaving one country for another, going it alone. I one of my mantras, I've got like 5 of them in my journey. Last couple of years, I say never say never. And I was just about to say I never could do that. I don't know if I could do that. Maybe I could now, because I've overcome some major obstacles in recent years. But that's a big one. I have a friend, I grew up with him, and I always said that you could take him and drop him anywhere and he would figure it out. And one day, kind of a similar situation. One day he said, I'm done. I don't want to do this job anymore. That's it. Went online, found a farmhouse, great price, like 90 acres in Maine. And he lived in New York and just moved. And he didn't even sell his house. Just, I'm going. That's it. And his wife was making jewelry in the shed. That was her passion. And that's what they did. And that supported them for a bunch of years in the beginning. She would make jewelry, and it was, really nice jewelry. They had a kiln, they fired the jewelry and everything. He then took some jobs with the state and did a little of this, a little of that, and then eventually sold their house. But just said, I'm done. I'm moving on. And, kind of sounds similar to you, but out of the comfort zone. And would you say that's one of the best things you ever did?
Yes, absolutely. Because I wouldn't be to where I am now if I wouldn't put myself into those situations. And it's not just moving to a different country, even it's just, going to school, right? Learning new things as English being a second language, starting a business. That's another huge getting out of the comfort zone experience. There's so much that you learn about yourself when you really become uncomfortable. When you step out of that zone and you realize, yeah, I can actually do this, or I am, open-minded. I am more detail-oriented. Okay, I see that my camera. I know. I wouldn't be able to talk without my hand.
Well, you stepped out of your comfort zone, like 6 inches back that way and this way, and then you're
right.
What's going on? I can't keep up with her. To your point of all of this, I've always said this. You have to go through the birth canal to get born again. And I don't mean religiously reborn.
Right.
I mean to a different way of life, a different type of life, a different situation. When a baby's being born, I gotta believe it's probably not the most comfortable thing for the baby or the mom. And you got to go through it. But once you go through it, you're there in another world. And now it's a whole new world. There's all new opportunities and things that pop up once you've gone through the process. So this is kind of it. You gotta push forward and realize that there is other things out there, and you might make a mistake, and that's okay because you're going to learn from it.
Yep. That, and I think that's one of the biggest takeaway we can take from this is that to grow from that glitch, right? You don't want to dwell on that glitch. You don't want to say, oh, because, and the kind of the fixed mindset comes in. So other thing that you can try to do is try to open up your mind to the failures that you're going to experience, to the possibilities that it's not going to go right the first time, right? Lots of people, they try something, they're motivated, they go for it, and as soon as they hit the roadblocks, they retreat and they never try again. Realize that when you are doing something for the first time, it's like baby were learning how to walk, right? The baby doesn't just stand up and just walk, right? There's a many trial and glitches. There's, baby stands up and then makes a one step and falls down, and then it has to go and do it again, and then next time they do two steps, and then next time the three steps. But you got to understand that it's the same way when you are learning something new, when you are stepping out of the comfort zone, you're not going to get that right on the first try. And I think we need to keep that in mind, so that fixed mindset where you put the ceiling on and it's like, no, I cannot go any further than that. We need to open it up to the growth mindset where we're like, okay, this is my comfort zone. Right here is the fear. Next to it is the fear zone. And right next to after the fear zone, you have the learning zone. And then after you get the learning zone, you get to experience new growth. And there where you set up a new boundaries and new comfort zone away from where you are. So it's kind of like a little stepping stone: fear, learning, growth, and new comfort zone.
I never thought of it that way.
It's kind of like you just got to take the baby steps. Don't stop on the first step. Take this next one and the next one, and just keep going, keep trying.
How do you work with people to get them out of their comfort zone?
It depends where they are when it comes to realizing how much they actually are in the comfort zone. Sometimes I like to, I use my energy healing as well with that, because of course there's a certain belief that prevents us from trying it out, right? Either it's the fixed mindset where you're like, okay, no, this is the ceiling and I cannot reach. Then I usually ask lots of different questions to kind of figure out why you think that that's your ceiling. Why cannot be 2 feet higher? Why you think that this is where you land, this is where you end, this is where your life is going to be until the rest of your time, right? And so based on their responses, I kind of go from there. But we usually tackle the first step, which is fear. Like, what is fearful? Why don't you want to try something new? Is it just not being aware that you are in a comfort zone, or is it some type of a belief that you're not good enough? Usually it's always, I'm not good enough, or I can't do this, right? So we try to get to that root cause of why they can't. Because for leaders, they start on the bottom, right? And they just keep climbing up, right? They just keep coming on the ladder and they go up. And they overcome the challenges and the limitations and the obstacles. But what stops them at that certain level, right, is that the comfort. They don't want to face another unfamiliar territory. They don't want to maybe go through it. So are they burned out? Are they stressed? Is it the lack of focus? Is it, the resistance and the ego? There's different things that we need to look at before we can kind of, determine which way to go. But I like, it's always the self-doubt, not enough, yes, and all of these.
There's a reason people are successful and move their life forward. And then there's a reason why there are people that don't step out of their comfort zone. And I think one of the most important things that we're talking about here is the belief that you can't do it. Why do you have that belief? There's a reason, because it goes back to maybe your childhood. or something you learned or heard or were taught. And now you're stuck in that and you think you can't do it. And that's something that you identify, right? And help get rid of, really.
Yes. And sometimes it's not as easy as go like, hey, I know exactly why. So we need to play a little detectives.
Sure.
And sometimes like, okay, I have a fear of, not accepting that I didn't, sometimes leaders have a hard time accepting that they failed. And then, so it doesn't automatically goes back to childhood. So we need to do a little digging and find out, okay, why do you think that you just, what is preventing you to accept that you failed? And then there are certain reasons. And then we go slowly back further to the, we get to the childhood, but sometimes it's not a straight direct line. This is associated with this.
Yep.
So sometimes we need to, but the belief is there. The belief is there. And if somebody is open to explore, somebody has the open mind, right, to even realize and have the need to try something different, that's what matters the most. Because if you're closed up and you're like, no, I don't want to, I can't, there's nothing I can do about it, nobody can help me, then you have to first work on this layer, right, to even get the person open to the idea that something can change or something different can happen in your life, that you can have a new dream, that you can have a new position, that you can reach the next ranking, right? So we need to break that ceiling.
Get out of your comfort zone. This one's easy. Just reach out.
Oh, right? Yeah, I know.
Just reach out to Iveta. It's safe. You'll be okay. How do we find you?
My business is dynamicsofconversation.com. I am a leadership coach. I help leaders to rise above the competition and reach their next level of success. I'm also energy healer. Sometimes I combine these together. Sometimes I don't. It depends. But I love to do them both. And you can reach me at 720-207-8932. That's my cell phone. And yes, I would love to help.
What's your website?
It's dynamicsofconversation.com.
Powerful combination when you add the coaching aspect and the energy healing, and especially for getting somebody out of their comfort zone. I've had a great having you on today, and love all the info, and so relatable for all of us. It really is.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yes, it was, it's always great talking to you. So.
Yep.
Yes.
And we'll catch up next time, okay?
We will, for sure.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.